പ്രണയരാഗതന്ത്രി മീട്ടി സ്നേഹഗീതമേകിയും കർമ്മഭൂമി തളിരിടുന്ന വർണ്ണമേകിയും നമ്മിൽ വാഴുമാതിനാമം ഇന്നു വാഴ്ത്തിടാം.
A very good morning to one and all. I am Anupama, Assistant Professor, Department of English, St. Mary's College, Puthanangadi. Welcome back to our second day of international webinar on post-truth era with the human rights. Before we start our today's session, let's go for a recap of day one. Began our program by 9 a.m. with a prayer. Mr. Uday Kumar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, did the welcome address. Our Principal, Reverend Father Denny Cholapalli, did the presidential address, and Mr. Sandeep, Assistant Professor from the Department of Commerce and Management, gave an outline about the seminar. The program was officially inaugurated by our Provincial Superior of CFIC India, Reverend Father Jose Matthew Parayil, followed by a keynote address by Antonella Soria Bruno, barrister from Canada. Reverend Father Verghese Kochukarambil, our Administrator, and Dr. K.K. Balachandran, HOD, Department of Commerce and Management, facilitated on this auspicious occasion. A scholarly paper presentation was done by Dr. Arun Kumar, Journalist 24 News and Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, University College, Trivandrum. We winded up our inaugural function with a vote of thanks by Ms. Deepthi, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce and Management, St. Mary's College, Puthanangadi. We could complete altogether 9 paper presentations by research scholars and students of various colleges and universities. We concluded our first day of international webinar with a word of thanks by Mr. Muhammad Rafi, HOD, Department of Political Science, St. Mary's College, Puthanangadi. A warm welcome is the first sign of hospitality. Words of welcome fill an occasion with warmth and makes one feel that he is meant to be there. With immense pleasure, I would like to invite Ms. Aditya, Assistant Professor, Department of English, for the welcome address.
Good morning, everyone. Nelson Mandela once said, to deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. I, Aditya, on behalf of St. Mary's College, welcome you all to the second day of the two-day international webinar on post-truth era with their human rights. It's my privilege and honor to welcome the chief guest and the presenter for the day, Advocate Dr. Sebastian Paul, ex-MP, who will enlighten us on the topic human rights. Welcome, sir. I'm humbled and honored to welcome Dr. Gigi Paul, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, MD College, Parani, who will share with us his insights on the topic. We shall meet again, the Will of Peace, Kashmir. Welcome, sir. A noble endeavor of knowledge such as this requires a lot of support and blessing from diverse dignitaries. I'm pleased to welcome the luminaries of our institution, our most respected Principal Father Denny Cholapillan and Vice Principal Father Chakov Kuchibarambil and the most abetting Administrator Father Verghese Kuchibarambil to this webinar. I would like to extend a wholehearted welcome to the most scholarly judging panel, including Dr. Jayesh and Dr. M.A. Joseph and Dr. Balachandran from St. Mary's College, who are here to assist us. I accord a genial welcome to Dr. Thomas K. George, HOD of the Department of Physics, and Ms. Regina Phillip, HOD of the Department of History, who are here with us to chair the following sessions. May I especially welcome the convener of the webinar, Mr. Sandeep, who has been the mastermind in designing this webinar and helping this throughout. I'm extremely happy to welcome research scholars, paper presenters, faculty, and students who have gathered here from diverse places. I hope all of you will have a productive day of interesting and stimulating discussions. I welcome you all once again. Thank you.
We are now moving on to the most awaited session by our honored guest, Dr. Sebastian Paul. For that, I invite Dr. Thomas K. George, Head of the Department of Physics, to chair the session. So please. Sir, please unmute your mic. Thomas, sir, please unmute your mic.
Okay. Good morning to all. You know that today is the second day of the seminar on international seminar on human rights. We are very happy to start the session with an eminent personality like Dr. Sebastian Paul, former MP, MLA. He's a well-known writer, a media critic, a cultural activist. He is known for his spokesmanship in human rights. He was in Parliament. He was the best parliamentarian in Lok Sabha in his time. We are very happy to have sir in our midst. All of us are waiting for you, sir. Sir, please.
Thank you, sir. And I also thank the management, faculty, and students of St. Mary's College, Angadipura, for inviting me to this two-day international seminar on a very important topic, human rights. You have framed your theme with the words, withering of human rights in post-truth era. Both words are in wide circulation nowadays in international parlance and international seminars and even newspaper articles. Post-truth as well as human rights. I personally am unable to understand the complete implication of the term post-truth. Post-truth implies that we have already surpassed the era of the age of truth. Post-truth literally means untruth. I do not know whether we have passed the era of truth to reach the era of post-truth. It was a Roman judge, Pontius Pilate, who tried and convicted Jesus Christ, famously asked according to Bible. What is truth? After asking this question, pertinent question, what is truth? Bible says he did not wait for an answer. For at least for the last 2000 years, that question begs for an answer. What is truth? Unless we understand what is truth, we cannot understand what is post-truth. Anyway, truth or post-truth or absence of truth or age of lies. Human rights is something which is different from all these things. Human rights is a relatively new concept, or in terminology at least. It is a 20th century name, coined after the Second World War by the wife of the then US President Roosevelt. Eleanor Roosevelt coined the term human rights. Till then, that concept was referred to as rights of man. She said, if we continue to use the word rights of man, it will have an implication or a wrong meaning that women are not entitled to enjoy these rights. So for the purpose of avoiding that gender confusion, Eleanor Roosevelt, who was deputed by the United Nations to frame the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, she invented or coined the word human rights. That means it has a history of some 80 years. The UN Declaration of Human Rights was pronounced on, as you know, December 10th, 1948, which day we observe as Human Rights Day. It is of something of paramount importance. You might have been familiar with the name John Locke. John Locke, the famous English philosopher, he is considered as an authority on the subject. And he wrote of the rights to life, liberty, and property. In that year, the English Bill of Rights was enacted by Parliament. It was after the glorious revolution of 1689. All those things are part of history. You may be aware of those things. When the United States, or rather the British colonies on the American continent, they won freedom after the War of Independence. The state of Virginia passed a Bill of Rights. That was in June 1776, before the enactment of the US Constitution with its famous First Amendments known as the Bill of Rights. The Virginia Bill of Rights, adopted by a representative convention, and its first clause proclaimed that all men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights, of which when they enter into a state of society, they cannot by any compact deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty. So life and liberty are the most important rights when we think of human rights. Now it is part of the constitution of every country. In our constitution also, we have part 3, fundamental rights, which contains all the known human rights at that time. At that time means in 1949. The name given by us in our constitution is fundamental rights instead of human rights. Fundamental rights are enforceable, judicially enforceable, protected. Article 32 as well as Article 226. Regarding Article 32, which provides a judicial remedy for the enforcement of fundamental rights, Dr. Ambedkar, architect of the Constitution, said, it is the very life and very soul of the Constitution. So, human rights are judicially enforceable in our country, and the courts will not permit any violation of human rights, whether during legislation or whether doing any administrative function. So whether it is the age of truth or post-truth or the age of lies, the greatest contribution of the 20th century, last century, was after a traumatic period known as Second World War. The world was moving towards democracy. This is the age of democracy. Democracy means a people who are free and free to enjoy certain rights, rights which are inalienable, immutable. That is the peculiar feature of human rights. In the preamble, our constitution has a preamble, a short preamble. It starts with the words, memorable words, we the people of India. And in the preamble, certain noble things have been proclaimed. What are they? Justice, then liberty, then equality, then fraternity and dignity. These words are familiar for us because the revolutionaries in France, they raised certain words as their slogan. Those words were liberty, equality, fraternity. That is the basis for human rights. Human rights is something which were given to us by no parliament, no king, or no authority. It was born with us as human beings. We came to this earth, or we were born with these inalienable rights given to us by the heavens. As Antigone, the famous Greek play of that play, the main character, Antigone. Antigone proclaims that there are certain rights which are inalienable and immutable. And through Antigone, Antigone was arguing before the king for the right of her deceased brother, the rebel brother, to receive a decent burial. And Antigone was questioning the authority of the king in all matters. She argues that over and above the power, the authority of the king, there is another law given by the heavens. Sophocles did not use the word human rights in his play. Because 2,500 years ago, that word was not known to man. But Sophocles was explaining what is termed in the 20th century as human rights in his inimical and beautiful style. So we know human rights as something we naturally got. It is natural law, not the law of parliament. We have every human being has a right to live with dignity, enjoying liberty. That is humanism. That is the most important ism, humanism. These words in the preamble, they constitute the foundation for humanism. So our constitution is a humanist constitution. Our constitution gives paramount importance to human rights. India is a nation which is bound to govern itself by the UN Declaration of Human Rights. UN Declaration means there are only 30 rights. 30 rights classified into 3 sections: political rights, social rights, and economic rights. But what is the state of human rights today? I think that is the question being raised by you. Whether it is in the era of post-truth or some other era, we can describe our age and our times in so many words. Whatever it may be, we live in the 3rd decade of the 21st century. What is the relevance of human rights? Or what is the position of human rights in this world now? When human rights was declared by the United Nations, the world was in the grip of a severe and traumatic Cold War. Cold War between the United States and the USSR. And the world was divided under the leadership of these 2 countries. It was not an age conducive for human rights. We were receiving, or we were hearing, or we were rather disturbed to hear many human rights violations from many parts of the world. Even today, the situation is not different. Stories of violation of human rights are aplenty. There is no doubt. But we are trying our level best to point out those violations and to bring human rights to the people throughout the world. So that is the most important thing. But the tendency of the government or the ruling class, the authorities, the state, is always to violate human rights or to deny human rights to the people. You mentioned about post-truth in your title. Post-truth is a word often comes in media discussions. Post-truth. What is the purpose of media? Media is there to give us information. Right to know is our constitutional right or fundamental right, right to know, emanating from Article 19(1)(a). Media is discharging that function. Media has taken up the responsibility, constitutional responsibility of informing the people. And a well-informed people, well-informed electorate is sine qua non for the success of democracy. There comes freedom of expression. Our constitution says in Article 19(1), every citizen have the right to free speech and expression, freedom of speech and expression. The freedom of expression is something which is paramount. When I visited Athens 2 years back, Athens is known as the cradle of democracy. There at the entrance of the Agora, Agora means the ancient city center. At the entrance of Agora, there is a board, sign, there's a big board. It says, here. Here means the hallowed ground where Socrates and Pericles and all those persons once traveled. They say here, 2,500 years ago, was born freedom of expression. That is the important, paramount legacy of Greece, of Athens. So without freedom of speech and expression, there will be no other right available for man. That is very important. So when you connect freedom of human rights with post-truth era, you are connecting human rights with freedom of speech and expression. Freedom of speech and expression. Unless there is freedom of speech and expression, there cannot be any human right. Every autocrat, every dictator who wants to deny human rights to the people, they will see that freedom of speech is denied to the people. In that sense, this post-truth and human rights have a close connection. As I said earlier, Part 3 of our Constitution is related to human rights. That is why Article 19(1) says, all citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression. That is threatened. That right is threatened. Post-truth era is, that term is more applicable to the media. The media in that post-truth era is not giving the facts, full facts or truth to the people. They are not discharging their constitutional function. It is voluntarily taken by them, assumed by them. They are not giving the truth to the people. They are spreading lies. They are spreading lies in the post-truth era. That is a threat. That is a threat to the existence and growth of human rights. Because human rights will strive only when people are able to stand up and speak freely. Our constitution was adopted in 1949 November. United Nations Declaration of Human Rights was released or proclaimed in 1948. So the UN Declaration was before the Constituent Assembly when we discussed about our Constitution. Naturally, those rights, though in a different name, were included in our Constitution. I quoted earlier the words of John Locke. John Locke, he said that he said about the rights to life, liberty, and property. Right to property was in our Constitution, Article 19 earlier, but we removed that to make it a constitutional right instead of a fundamental right. But the other right, most valuable, right to life and liberty, that is enshrined in Article 21. Article 21 is protection of life and personal liberty. Protection of life and personal liberty. From that right only, we derived, or the Supreme Court derived a very precious and valuable right known as right to privacy. Right to privacy. Right to privacy is a most important right which should be protected if we want to protect human rights. What is happening now? Espionage, hacking, everything is there. Pegasus till now was known to us as a winged horse in the Greek mythology. But now Pegasus is something else. It is a spyware. It can intrude without the knowledge of the owner into any telephone, any phone. And the entire details, information contained in that instrument will be passed over to someone else. That is the situation here. Technology, we hope that it will open new heavens of freedom to us. But technology has now made us to live in a miserable condition where anybody can be stripped and remain naked without his knowledge. That is the situation now. So all our fundamental rights are in danger. If fundamental rights or human rights are in danger, everything will be in danger. That is the situation now. So we as responsible citizenry, it is our duty to be alert. To be alert. Even the smallest and insignificant violation of human rights shall not go unnoticed. There should be somebody, someone to raise his voice against such violations. So it is high time. There is several agencies scrutinizing the state of human rights in every country. Because as I said in the beginning, UN Declaration in the present form, human rights was introduced to us by the UN Declaration of Human Rights, which was declared in 1948. That means so many years have passed. So many constitutions were drafted in the light of this UN Declaration. And what is the state of things even now? We are proud of our democracy. We are proud of our independence. We are proud of our constitution. We are proud of our democracy. We are proud of our parliamentary form of democracy. But everything is in danger now. Everything is in danger now. The basic things which require for the nourishment of basic human rights are being threatened. Even our parliament is not functioning. The monsoon session of parliament ended in total washout. Total washout. That means parliament did not function. The government is not telling the truth to the people. The government was asked a simple question: whether you bought Pegasus or not. The answer is yes or no. The government is refusing to give either of the answer. That is the reason for the stalemate. I am not approving everything that happened in parliament, especially in Rajya Sabha. But the trend is alarming. The trend is alarming. Everywhere the forces which do not approve human rights are gaining strength. We don't know the fate of Afghanistan. So many areas, some very alarming things, frightening things are happening. But we cannot ignore the importance of human rights. Those rights were with us from the very beginning. From the very beginning. That we cannot ignore or discard those rights given to us by God or by nature. Nature will be a more secular word. Nature, natural, that is why it is called natural law. Natural law, or from which human rights emanated. It is under threat by forces of dictatorship and autocracy. Nobody, everybody, everywhere, it is unsafe to speak of one's own rights and to champion the cause of rights of others. That made Father Stan Swami a martyr. He was standing for the rights of the tribal people in Jharkhand, not for his rights, personal rights. He was treated as a human rights champion by the people and by the state, by the government. He was termed as an urban Naxal. It is difficulty. Human rights is the most abused word now. Human rights activists everywhere are seen with a suspicious eye. They are termed in so many ways. The latest description of a human rights activist is urban Naxal, urban Naxalite. Stan Swami was branded as an urban Naxalite or Maoist. That is why I said human rights, not only human rights, but human rights activists are also in danger. What is the remedy? What can we do? We can remain alert. We can remain alert. What is the price for sustaining our freedom? We should be alert. Constant vigil. Constant vigil is the price demanded from us for our freedom. For our and everyone's. Human rights is not for an individual alone. It is for us all. It is our common legacy. It is our common gift received from nature. And that is why I said it is our common duty to protect human rights, whether it is in the post-truth era or in some other era. Any age and era can be termed in different ways and manner. But human rights will remain. Human rights should remain on the face of this earth as long as man and woman are here. Thank you.
We were listening to the words of a media critic, cultural activist, and a great political leader who has the unique record of contesting 6 elections within a span of 7 years and winning 4 of them, all from the same constituency, and that too as an independent candidate with allegiance to CPI. Thank you so much, sir. So, may I take your permission to get question from the audience?
Yes, they can ask.
Audience, please put your questions to the chat box. Chat box has enabled now. Please put your questions to the chat box. So we will wait for a few minutes. Audience, you're requested to unmute your mic and ask questions if you prefer. Sebastian Paul, sir, we have questions.
Yes. What is the question? First question.
So one answer, I'll forward it.
So the first question is, what is your opinion about the conditioning that happens from school days itself? History is literally getting constructed and altered in academic circles as well.
I couldn't follow it. In academic circles, what is happening? Hello?
Sir, what is your opinion about the conditioning that happens from school days itself? History is literally getting constructed and altered in academic circles as well.
I don't know what to do. That is why we are always stand for academic freedom and academic autonomy. But whenever a dictator assumes power, his first priority will be to distort history. Distortion of history happens first in academic books, academic textbooks, and classrooms. That is the lesson we got from the history, the career of Adolf Hitler in Germany. Everywhere that is happening. So we stand for academic autonomy and academic freedom. When we say so, we expect academic honesty from all those who are working in the field of academics.
So we do have a next question.
Yes.
So the BJP government promoting religious right. We have examples in Uttar Pradesh and other states. How we can prevent it? The question was forwarded by Sadiq MK.
How can we prevent means there is no simple or direct answer. When I mentioned about the words Adolf Hitler, Nazism, dictatorship, all those things have implications in our country also. All these things we are experiencing here. There is political encroachment to the field of academics. Academic freedom is denied. Academic autonomy is violated, and history is being distorted, and distorted history is being taught in our country. Religion, religious fanaticism, it is rampant in the country. All others means a person different from me is not tolerated. We always profess the philosophy of inclusiveness, to include everybody, not excluding, including. What is happening in our country now? Dissent is not permitted. Dissent is not permitted. Everybody should be conformed to one ideology, one idea and one ideology. All those things we know. Examples are there in many. What shall be the what you ask me? What is the remedy? The remedy lies in the hands of the people. We defeated Indira Gandhi, who during emergency was a great dictator. But people knew what to do with her. Here also, people know what to do. Our duty is to first enlighten ourselves, then enlighten the society at large. There is a great work in democracy, which requires freedom of expression, freedom of speech. All those things are denied now. The media in India is not free at all, especially the so-called national media. They are fear is gripping them. When the media is not fearless, and the media is subjecting themselves to the whims and fancies of the ruling class, it's a great threat to human rights. It's a great threat. So we should first realize the what is happening around us in our country, and be prepared to be part of the resistance. Resistance will come because human rights is our natural right, and we will do, or the people will do whatever they can to restore and preserve those rights.
Thank you, sir. So we have one more question from Mr. JSG. Question is, so where you place justice in human rights?
Justice is a very important thing. Justice is the first thing we see in our preamble to the Constitution. The other three things, that is liberty, equality, and fraternity. Those were the only words used by the French revolutionaries. But we added one more thing, that is justice. And we placed it in a paramount position. There are three types of justice: social justice, economic justice, and political justice. Denial of justice means denial of equality. We are permitting exploitation. Everything will be there. Everything in violation of human rights will be there in an atmosphere where justice is not prevalent. That is why justice has its own meaning, its own significance, and we are all trying our best to ensure justice for all. A recent trend in international international jurisprudence is to conceive and develop a law as justice. Law as justice. That is the theory of John Rawls, etc. So we cannot ignore the word justice. We cannot ignore the concept of justice.
Thank you so much, sir. I think there are no more questions, sir. So thank you so much. St. Mary's College is honored to have you here, sir. Thank you once again for the informative and valuable talk on the topic human rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Next, I'm really honored to introduce Dr. Gigi Paul, Assistant Professor of Political Science, Dionysius College. He received Best Research Paper Award by IIHSG 2021 on International Studies and Gender Security and Global Politics, which was held on February 25th and 26th of the year 2021. It was organized by Indian Institute of Human Security and Governance collaboration with Center for International Studies and Diplomacy, School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London and Department of International Relations, University of Chittagong, Bangladesh. He also received certificate of commitment to promote safety against COVID-19 by World Health Organization in the year 2020. He also received International Award for Change Ambassador for Peace and Humanity in the year 2018. This was awarded by Youth Education and Leadership Initiative Nigeria under United Nations of February 2018. He was also one among the United Nations volunteer and received Dr. Ambedkar Fellowship Award in the year 2004 and Mahatma Jyotiba Phule Fellowship Award in the year 2007. He's working as PhD Research Guide, Department of Political Science, Sri Keralavarma College, Thrissur. He completed his PhD in militancy in Kashmir and the socio-economic situations of Pandits. He did his MPhil and MA in political science from the University Center, Karyavatam. He also published many books in which it includes Nashta Swapnangalude Kashmir, Socio-Economic Conditions of Kashmir Pandits, Kashmir the Valley of Lament, Baba Sahib, Dr. Bhim Rao Ambedkar, and so on. Presented paper in both national and regional seminars. He has membership in both international and national organizations. I would like to invite Regina Philip, HOD, Department of History, St. Mary's College, Puttanangadi, to chair this session. Ma'am, please.
Okay. Success is not a key to happiness, and happiness is the key to success. If you have what you are doing, he will be successful. A warm good morning to each one of you present here. It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome Dr. Gigi Paul, Assistant Professor of Political Science, Mar Dionysius College, Padani, Thrissur. He took his doctoral degree from Kerala University about Kashmir militancy and socio-eco conditions of Pandits. He contributed a lot of books and received number of awards. Yes, we know that you are a terrific speaker, prolific scholar, good teacher, and our attendees and delegates will gain much from your talk. Sir, I welcome you to present the topic. We shall meet again in the Villa of Peace, Kashmir. Welcome, sir.
So please unmute your audio.
Hello, it's audible?
Yes,
It's
sir. You're audible.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, teacher. Good morning to all. Respected Reverend Father Varghese Kochavarambil, manager of St. Mary's College, and respected Reverend Father Denny Cholapil, principal of St. Mary's College, respected chair, and respected friends, respected students, and also dear colleagues, Mr. Mohammad Rafi sir and Mohammad Suhail sir, and also those who are operating this international seminar. I send my special thanks and regards to one and all. It's a wonderful opportunity provided St. Mary's College to me to present a paper titled "We Shall Meet Again, the Villa of Peace, Kashmir." I think everybody knows it is one of the burning issues in Indian politics. But I taken this title from a famous poet called Aga Shahid Ali. He was born in Kashmir family. Because of militancy, he shifted to Kashmir to New Delhi. Then he migrated to United States of America. He wrote a beautiful poems. He wrote a lot of beautiful poems. This poem, "We Shall Meet Again, the Villa of Peace," written by Aga Shahid Ali, this famous poem called "A Country Without a Post Office." So whenever you got the time, get the time, kindly read this poem. You will also observe the pains and sorrows, how the ordinary people suffered in Kashmir Valley in olden days. I think everybody knows Kashmir is the head of the nation. But if head lost, what is the use of other parts? That's why 1947, August 15th onwards, still we are spending crores of money for protecting our head. Human rights violations are happening. So much unknown behaviors are happening. Custodial death, kidnapping, militants, organized attacks also happening. Everything happening inside the valley. But more than 73% of Kashmiris, secular-minded Kashmiris, they want to stand with India. Some are wants to join with Pakistan. Others some are wants to create Azad Kashmir. But the encouragement and love and affection of majority of Kashmiris, we cannot forget. Just because of their help, just because of dedication, sacrifice, Kashmir still continuing head of our nation. But if we go through Kashmir history, it says 1148, a famous author called Kalahanna, his Rajat Rangini, he explained about olden history of Kashmir. He says that in olden days, Kashmir is a land of Buddhas. Buddhism is a mainstream religion of Kashmir. But unfortunately, because of some ethnical problem, means ideological problem, Buddhism cannot continue. That space cleverly used by Mughal kings. They defeated Buddhism and they established Mughal Empire Kingdom in Kashmir Valley. But as per the history of Kashmir, it says that the period of Mughals, it is amazing because they constructed so much of fort and they constructed so much of good roads, including they constructed so much of good gardens, including it's called Nishang, Harwan and Shalimar. People, they provide so much of satisfied work for the development of society. But unfortunately, Afghan people, they are very cruel people. They attacked the Kashmir Valley. They defeated the Mughal empires and they started their own kingdom. More than 12 years, they continued terrific ruling inside the valley. One of the things is they started to forceful conversion. But later days, Sikh regime got a power and the last Maharaja called Hari Singh. He is the last ruler of Sikh community in Kashmir Valley. In 631 AD, Chinese traveler Huan Sang, he visited the Kashmir Valley. He indicates that in early days, Kashmir is called Kashmilo. Kashmilo means it is full of water. Later days, Kashmilo, the word Kashmilo turned or transformed like Kashmir. Still, it was covered with water, Jhelum River. But again, history says that 1930, there was an organization called Muslim Conference, established by the leadership of Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, Lion Man of Kashmir. But very later, after 9 years, he changed the party organization name like National Conference. 1947, June 3rd and 5, Mountbatten plan was declared. He said, as per the request of Indian mainstream leaders, British East India Company decided to partition India, and we are going to create two independent nations called India and Pakistan. That time we have more than 525 principal states. So they requested all principal states to join with Pakistan or India. We will not allow to any principal provinces to stand like independent state between Pakistan and India. But unfortunately, Maharaja Hari Singh, Junagadh and Hyderabad and Nizam, these three fellows not at all interested to join with either Pakistan or India. But emergence involvement from our first Prime Minister, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, he sent convoy to Junagadh and Nizam to start a negotiation. Lastly, they forced to join with India. But unfortunately, this fellow, this Maharaja Hari Singh, he never interested to join with India. 1947, August 15, we got a freedom. That time, Pakistan thinks that majority people belong to Islam believers. So normally Kashmir will melted with Pakistan. But Maharaja Hari Singh not at all interested to join with Pakistan because he says that his ancestors, his tradition, civilization, everything in Indian soil. So we have no interest to join with Pakistan. We need to stand like independent state. But history of Kashmir, it says that 1947, August 15 to October 24, Kashmir is not a part of Pakistan. Kashmir is not a part of India. It is an independent state. But first, in the beginning stage of October, Pakistan strengthened their armies, especially tribal people, Waziri people, and the help of Pakistan army. They tried to grab Kashmir and they interested to establish an Islam-based nation inside India. Later, Maharaja Hari Singh identified the importance of our help and he requested to Prime Minister Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, we need your help. That time, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru consulted Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Or also he recalled our first Army General, Mr. Sam Manekshaw, sent army to Srinagar. That night, we sent our army to Srinagar, and we prevent the invasion created by Pakistan. But unfortunately, we lost more than 13,900 square kilometers. It is called Azad Kashmir. It is now under the custody of Pakistan, under the capital city called Muzaffarabad. October 26, both India and Pakistan accepted the standstill agreement. We lost so much of innocent soldiers and innocent citizens from Kashmiris, and also we lost huge amount public properties. But anyway, as per the 1947 October 26 standstill agreement, both are withdrawn their army. But later, 1948 December 31 and 1949 January 1st, Pakistan and India lodged a complaint to United Nations because both are explained about the enemy created so much damages for the unity and integrity of nation, but unfortunately, United Nations not interested to involve the Kashmir issue because 1947 November 2nd, our first Prime Minister message aired through All India Radio. He promised to Kashmiris, he says that when the things become normal, we will conduct plebiscite. I don't know why Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru used the word plebiscite. Plebiscite is a contradictory word. That time or this time or in future, we cannot conduct plebiscite because as per the Constitution of India, India means union of the state, fusion of the state. So suppose if state wants to separate from union, later it will destroy the unity and the integrity of India. That's why we cannot accept it, the old promise called a plebiscite. But still United Nations, still Pakistan and militant organization asking United Nations to force India to conduct plebiscite. In my personal observation, nowhere in India, we cannot conduct plebiscite. We are already conducting democratic elections. It is more than plebiscite. This is the first stage of Kashmir history because 1950, 1951, 52, 53, these are the tremendous, amazing ages of Kashmir because after the standstill agreement, Pakistan understood people of the Kashmir, majority of the Kashmiris, they don't want to join with our side. Even they are not at all interested to establish Azad Kashmir. That reality, later Pakistan accepted, but again, Pakistan is trying to export militancy over the India and also destroying the unity and integrity of nation. Not only unity and integrity, destroying our financial stability, our unity and our democracy. In second stage, 1953, Sheikh Abdullah hit from Prime Minister by Mr. Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru because there are some political reasons. That time there is no chief minister. As per the constitution of Jammu and Kashmir, he is the first person appointed as Prime Minister. But our Prime Minister, Indian Prime Minister, hit Kashmiri Prime Minister just because of political dispute. Later, 1957, first time in the history of Kashmir, we conducted election. But unfortunately, more than 68 seats got Sheikh Abdullah. He formed cabinet in the state. Later, rise and falls in between democratic systems president rule, governor rule, everything happened. But unfortunately, say 1984, we appoint 1984 election. One person, that is Ghulam Muhammad Shah, GM Shah, became the chief minister of Kashmir. That is a fearful atmosphere. He created so much a fearful atmosphere in the Kashmir Valley. That is the beginning stage of open militancy in Kashmir Valley. The 6th July 1984, our Indian Airlines flight from Srinagar to New Delhi. In between, Kashmiri militants kidnapped, hijacked the flight, landed in Lahore airport, released the passenger, and they burned the aircraft. This is the first step. Again, they started to create so much of militants attacks in Kashmir Valley. In 1989, December 8, our Home Minister daughter, Ms. Rubaya was kidnapped by Kashmir militants and informed Kashmir newspaper office, Kashmiri Times office, because she is in our custody. Request Indian government to release 3 hardcore militants, especially Umar Said and Hafiz Said. Then only we will release the daughter. But unfortunately, VP Singh government accepted the proposal introduced by this militant organization. They released a hardcore terrorist called Umar Said and Hafiz Said. It is in that time, most of the mainstream papers wrote many articles. It is a political game. 1965, again I'm going before the 1987. 1965, a first militant organization started in Kashmir Valley called Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front under the leadership of Amanullah Khan, Yasin Malik, Kashim Qureshi, etc. The mastermind worked behind the JKLF. It is called Makbul Patt. But unfortunately, in 1976, Makbul Patt was caught in between crossing the Kupwara border. We sent it to Tihar jail, and in 1984, we hanged the Makbul Patt also. As per the intelligence report, still more than 63 militant organizations are working inside the Kashmir Valley. Why it's happening? Every year we are spending more than 300, 400, 600 rupees for protecting the Kashmir Valley. But I know many people know it is a political game. It is a political game. It is a political game. Money cannot bring everlasting peace anywhere in the world. Some are things that through AK-47, so through grenade, rocket launches, Special Powers Act, peace can establish. But unfortunately, it will not impossible. Not impossible. If anybody wants everlasting peace and security, we must sacrifice, we must dedicate it, we must surrender, or we must reconstruct our minds and idea. Without these things, we cannot implement everlasting peace and security. But unfortunately, in Kashmir, we failed to establish everlasting peace. Simply wasting money, simply sending army, and also implementing so many new methodologies for special act for protecting the state. It creates so much of fearful atmospheres and also doubtful incidents. As per the history of India, in front of the State Human Rights Commission up to 2018, more than 2018 cases are pending. These cases belongs to disappeared cases. Nobody knows whether they believe or died, whether they died or alive. Indian Army, as per the opinions from Indian Army, they said they passed the border, they joined with militant organization. These are the things happening in Kashmir Valley. There is no value for the right to life. But unfortunately, after 89, Pakistan formed a special wing to capture Kashmir from Indian hands. They started to sponsor militancy against Kashmir. Why these people establishing new methods? Why it is succeeding? Why it is happening? First thing, Lashkar-e-Toiba and Hizbul Mujahideen, these two organizations are powerful in Kashmir soil. They have more than 22 sleeping agencies, and also 69 involving direct agencies are working in the Jammu and Kashmir. And also still they are conducting 6 training camps in border areas, 33 training camps outside the border areas. We know everything knows our army, but they are observing, they are watching carefully, because there are so much of problems they are facing. Some training camps are situated in the midst of ordinary residents. So army cannot destroy the camps as soon as possible, but they are trying and they are observing carefully. When the things became normal, they will destroy. But nowadays there are so much of tremendous changes are happening because they are not this militant organization cannot get in youth from Kashmir Valley. They are trying to recruiting from Middle East, African nations, and also Pakistan and Afghanistan. Last week, I talked with Kashmiri Times main editor regarding to this subject. She said, Anuradha Puduwan, she said, now in present scenario, they are not getting any local people to recruitment. They are getting all are from foreigners. But why it's happening? Why it's happening? If a person interested to join a militant organization, first time they will give 75,000 lump sum amount. Then 1 month for observation. After observation, the fellow goes to training camp. Every month they will give 20,000 rupees for stipend. And also after 6 months training, the militant organization will give special allowances for the family, education, basic facility, food and shelter, clothes, and marriages, everything under the control of this militant organization. And after completing the training, these fellows are appointed for the target. If they completed the target, they will give online. These are the things changing, or these are the things attracting some youths in Kashmir. But because of Operation Sadbhavana introduced by Indian Army in 1999, it changed so much, especially in grassroots level. It transformed many of the districts, especially Pulwama, Shopian, Baramulla, Kupwara, Kulgam. Now, in present situation, this militant organization, they are not getting anyone from this area, but they are getting somebody from border areas of India and Pakistan. Why it's happening? Why it's happening? Because the everlasting aim and ambition of Pakistan, they are injecting, they are brainwashing, they are doing so much of posters and so much of unstable words against the Indian system. They are saying, we belong to this system. We belong to this system. They are trying to destroy our rights. So we must stand against India. India are our enemies. So we must stand against India's systems. Otherwise, India will conquer. India will destroy our tradition, our civilization, our culture, and everything. But unfortunately, olden days, it was successfully introduced by Pakistan. But in present scenario, it is not at all possible, because the new generation identify the tremendous cunningness and also unstable ones introduced by Pakistan against our democracy system. That system, coming generation, present generation, not at all interested. That is why most of the Kashmiri, secular-minded Kashmiri, more than 70% of Kashmiri, they want to stand with India. Why the Pakistan exploiting? Why the Pakistan exploiting or conducting this type of stupid things against Kashmiris? Because when we go the deepness of history, Kashmir history, it is painful. The conditions are painful because unemployed rates are more than 70%. There is no factories, common factories are not coming, especially in Kashmir Valley. And poverty, 60%, more than 60% poverty. Socio-economic conditions are collapsed. 71% of people are living the collapse in between socio-economic conditions. And 37% of the citizens, Kashmiris, are living mental depressions, because once they are afraid, they're so much afraid of Indian army. Same time, other side, they are afraid about militants. Then 80% human rights violations are happening. 40% of people are begging for freedom, Then 65% of people saying or claiming our state is not progressive. Our state is not progress. Why it is happening? Why it is happening? 1947 August 15 to 2020 means last year, more than 52,000 innocent men, women, children are died because of militancy. Because of militancy. Only one the states in India requesting Indian authorities with TAs, they want right to life. But unfortunately, National Human Rights Commission or State Human Rights Commission cannot accept Kashmiri's right to life because they failed. They failed. In my personal opinion, they are failed, completely failed. Completely failed. Because spending money, crores of money every year they are spending crores of money. But what is the use of the crores of money? That's why I'm saying National Human Rights Commission and State Human Rights Commission involvements in Kashmir, it is utterly failed. Utterly failed. But our army, our brave soldiers, their dedication, their confidence, only Kashmir is still alive as a part of our head. Our head, because their dedication. In Siachen, -45, they are standing for the glory of our motherland. In Ladakh, -30, they are standing for the glory of India. In Kargil, -18, they are standing for the glory of India. They don't have any unit. They don't have any other contradictory lines. They are doing their duties sincerely. That is why you and me alive in between these type of incidents. Again, Kashmir states that. Again, Kashmir states that some people are still believing Kashmir is a Muslim state, Sunni Muslim state. So Muslims are creating the problem. It is absolutely wrong. Many of the Muslims, because 99% of Muslims in Kashmir Valley, they are looking peace and security. But unfortunately, little 1% or 2%, they are only creating these persons only creating problem inside the Kashmir Valley. But every year, Kashmiri government taking many steps to prevent sponsored militancy and internal militancy. Sometimes it is okay, but many times it is failed. Because again, I'm repeating, without the people's dedication, without the sacrifice, without surrender, we cannot solve or we cannot overcome this type of incidents anywhere, any parts of India. 1989 and 1990, it is a peak time of Kashmir militancy. 1991, April 5, Al Faran paper published a notorious news. Kashmiri Pandits must relieve from Kashmiri Valley within 48 hours, otherwise prepare for death. Because Kashmir is a land of Kashmiri Pandit too. Our first Prime Minister, his ancestors also belongs to Pandit community. Unfortunately, these people became refugees in their motherland. More than 2,500 Kashmiri Pandits lost their motherland, their valuable life. In present time means today, more than 350,000 of Kashmiri Pandits are became refugees in various parts of India and outside. All political parties promising we are ready to solve your tears. We will uphold, we will reconstruct it, and we will do more than whatever you need. But till now, they are staying various parts of India like refugees. So, right to life means not only for the Pandits, not only for the secular-minded citizen. As per the UDHR, Article 1 says that all men are born free, equal dignity and rights. Even Puranas, Vedas, and all religious dogmas explaining about the values on morality of right to life. But many times we cannot protect, we cannot prevent, even we cannot provide transparency in the right of everyone's life. After 2000, we conducted so much of negotiations between Pakistan secretary level talks, and we conducted president level talks and prime minister level talk, army brigadier level talk, everything properly done. But unfortunately, Pakistan not at all interested to create peace and security inside the Kashmir Valley. Why I am using the term peace? Because without peace, we cannot continue in next ages. because peace is very important. Peace is very, very important. In 2017, I met Yasin Malik, the leader of Jammu Kashmir, along with their co-chairman Altaf. I asked, brother, why you are doing this type of things against our democracy? He said, brother, our everlasting ambition, not destroy the unity of India, not destroy the liberty of Indian citizen. We need to establish independent Kashmir. I asked how it's happened. How it's happened? He said, wait for the history. I said, Yasin, you are spending your valuable life, valuable time. But he said, we have an ambition. We are not hate India. We are not at all hated Indian citizen. We try to stand for your olden promise given by your first Prime Minister, conduct plebiscite. I said, Yasin, it is impossible. It is impossible. Indian government will not conduct plebiscite in Kashmir Valley. Suppose Indian government ready to conduct plebiscite in Kashmir Valley, maybe in later many states of India, they are also requested to conduct plebiscite. They are not at all interested to join with India. This is the reality. So try to understand the reality. He said no, because we negotiated with JKLF people many times. Even 2015, mid of November, I met Mr. Said Ali Shah Gilani. He's the chairman of All Party Conference at Kashmir Valley. He's an older person. I asked Gilani Sahab, why you are dancing with Pakistan's tune? He said, I'm not dancing with Pakistan tunes. I need request India to keep the promise alive. These are the problems creating so much of dangerous situations in Kashmir Valley, because these are the culprits. These are the stupid fellows living in India, earning Indian money, collecting Indian foods, and asking, we need separate nation. We need a separate nation. We need separate Kashmir. It is not at all non-acceptable. Not acceptable. Because some histories, some later history, after 2000 history, latest books, latest authors and political observers, they say that Farooq Abdullah, the son of great leader Sheikh Abdullah, legally or illegally connected with Kashmiri militant, especially JKLF. These are the things also created so much of miseries in Kashmir Valley. Whenever he go to Delhi, he talk about the essence of democracy and unity, peace, security, etc. But after returning the Kashmir Valley, he will talk with Azad Kashmir or separate Kashmir. We need to keep the promise. We need to realize that old promise, just like. These are the dual vices, misbehaviors from some political leaders. We cannot accept it. We cannot accept it. Later, why we are spending 500 and 600 crores? Do you know that India's present scenario? 14 kilometer people are madly running for collecting a cup of glass, cup of water, a cup of water, more than 14 kilometer, more than 6 kilometer. People are walking to enter market, public market. What about for the education? 9 kilometers. Students wants to go and enter the schools. There is no basic facilities. Some districts are under the control of Maoism and Naxalism. And some parts of area, Some areas are not permitted to army or other officials. Some areas are strictly prohibited by some powers. These are the happening inside India. Suppose if we created everlasting peace in Kashmir, we can turn this amount, we can convert this amount to these poor areas. But unfortunately, it is not happening. Till 1947, August 15 to today, 21 August itself, the authorities not at all interested to settle this issue. It is a political issue. Political parties not at all interested to settle this issue because they are getting so much of mileage from this incident. Yearly, the mileages are they are exploiting. That is why they are not at all interested to this issue permanently settled. Last 2019, I visited Kashmir Valley. I tried to meet Mr. Yusuf Tarigami. He's under house arrest. I met the special court at Srinagar because I like to meet Mr. Yusuf Tarigami. He said, we cannot give permission. I said, I'm a college teacher. I need to discuss some political matters and present scenario. He said, no, you are not a person to discuss anything. But one fellow said, one of my friend is working in Kashmir politics. He said, tomorrow a good judge will come. I'm not interested to reveal his name. So you just go and meet him. He will give permission. After 11, I went to court. I submitted a request. Unfortunately, he gave a permission. I went to Gupta Road at Srinagar. I met Yusuf Tarigami. We discussed so many things regarding the political issues. He said, Indian Army is doing brilliant work from saving from militants. Indian Army doing spontaneous work, protecting our borders. Indian armies working amazingly for the glory of India. But some areas still militants are hiding. Some areas militants are hiding. Already people informed the situation, but some administrators not at all interested to take action against these informations. These are the things still happening in Kashmir Valley. That is why militancy is increasing. As per the Indian Army report, it says before 2021, July 30, they killed more than 600 militants. Cross-border terrorism is improving. One side, most of the borders are converted by 25,000 volt electric fencing. But unfortunately, some areas militants are using to crossing. I don't know how it's happening. And also fake currency. It also printed by Pakistan and supplied in whole borders. It also they are doing. But unfortunately, after 2010, there are so much of changes happen in Kashmir Valley. So much of changes happened in Kashmir Valley. I met so many Kashmiri Pandits and so much of Kashmiri Muslim families. I stayed with them. They are saying, we need peace and security. We need peace and security. But whenever we talk about peace and security, First thing, we must accept the liberty of the citizens. Without acceptance of liberty, without fraternity, without freedom of the citizen, without the right of life, how we will establish peace and security? How we will establish peace and security? There is a lady called Rima Farhan. She was a third-year student of Srinagar Medical College. 2016 Ramadan time, she was disappeared. In Ramadan morning, he collected some seeds from her residence. He crossed the he crossed the road and tried to enter her friend's residence. But unfortunately, till nobody knows whether she alive or died. That is Kashmir. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Sorry. Father belongs to agriculture department, working in agriculture department. Mother is a teacher. Wonderful secular-minded Kashmiri family. Only one daughter. Still, the sobs and tears are providing so much of painful to that family. This type of incidents are happening in Kashmir. Why it's failed? Why authorities are not interested to prevent this type of incident? Many people still believe that Kashmiris are militants are Kashmiris. Absolutely wrong. Some persons belongs to militants. Majority are looking for peace. Majority are looking for the peace. I know many states, many places not interested to register, even not interested to provide accommodation to these Kashmiris, because these people are believing most of the Kashmiris are militants. It is absolutely wrong. Kashmir is one of the peaceful and safest place in the world, in the India. I visited more than 35 times. I never feel any bad things from Kashmir. In 2014, I visited Doda, district of Doda. It's a place of Ghulam Muhammad Azad, AICC, former AICC secretary. I visited Doda. I don't know, after 6:30, the buses will not run. I visited the places. I entered to bus stand, started to wait for public transport. Time passed to 7 p.m. There is no bus, no vehicle to reach Udhampur. I met one small shop owner. His name, Hafiz Saif, old person. I explained everything. He invited me to his restaurant. I don't know who is Hafiz Saif. He don't know anything about myself, but he provided accommodation, food, and everything. Kashmir. But the rules, news, everything, most of the news are fakes, because in Kerala, no newspapers have no representatives in Kashmir Valley. But unfortunately, most of the time, many of the newspapers wrote fake news regarding the Kashmir Valley. These are the things, destroying and creating fearful atmospheres or fearfulness in innocent other state people's mind. Again, I am passing how we can solve this Kashmir issue. Peace is very near. Peace is very near, but hands are bound with political dramas. When the hands became open, peace will come. Peace will come. But again and repeating, it is a political trauma. It is a political trauma. Kashmiri people, poor Kashmiri people became the victim of this political trauma. Peace is very near, very near. Old Minister of Kashmir Valley, Mr. Sajjad Ghanilon, is one of my friend. On my PhD time, he gave a lot of data. He's from Kupwara Valley. His sister belongs to a leading advocate of Supreme Court, Ms. Shabnam Ghanilon. So last month also I contacted Sajjad Ghanilon. I asked about for the present situation, present scenario. He said he's a BJP minister. He worked as a minister in BJP cabinet in last cabinet because of withdrawal of Article 370 and 35A. Jammu Kashmir lost the state power, and now he is in Kupwara. I asked Sajjad Ghanilon, sir, what was the present scenario? He said, people are not interested to talk anything. Not interested to talk anything. I ask why? Why people are not interested to talk? Because if they talk anything, rulers will mark as militant, Naxalite, or Maoist, or cheating the motherland. He said the things are very worse in Kashmir Valley. Very worst. Authorities are appointed. So much of informers, army informers, Rashtriya Rifles informers, and also state police informers. If anybody writes the slogan against right to life or right to liberty, the authority will mark as cheaters of motherland. So people are sit like doors. They are not opening their ideas. They are not at all interested their ideas, personal ideas with society. They are not at all interested to talk anything regarding the present scenarios in Kashmir Valley. Everything looks like silence. But as per the Human Rights Commission, it says that silence cannot win the human rights. We need to talk. We need to react. We need to assemble. We need to stand for the glory of the principles lying in our constitution. But unfortunately, are not allowing. Yesterday, I listened one teacher present a paper regarding the Stanford Swami and death. It is painful. Old person marked as a cheater and put it into jail. Before his death, nobody questioned him. It is painful. It is painful. It is painful, brother. It is painful. Again, I am repeating, it is painful. These are the things also happening in Kashmir Valley. In Kashmir Valley. But how long we must bear? How much we must suffer? How long we must accept this type of realities? As long as breathe alive in our body, we must react. As long as breathe alive in our body, we must react. Without react, without response, without talk, without openness, if you are going to sit like a monk, no use. Your democracy will destroy. Your conditions may be replaced by these militants. Your system may collapse by these types of opportunities. So we must react it. We must react it. Without reaction, we cannot solve these types of spontaneous stupidness. Spontaneous stupidness. Without reactions, we cannot stop. We cannot stop. 2018, I attended a conference in Kashmir University, operated by Department of Botany. I said, these are the things happening in your state. Why students are not responding? After end of my section, All are silent. All are silent. But after lunchtime, some students approached me. They said, "Sir, we are living in the midst of painful situation. We are living in the midst of militant era. We are living in the midst of darkness. If we react against the existing system, they will target us. They will destroy us." One student, he's a PhD student, PhD work, he's doing in PhD in physics. He revealed his story. Before 3 years, the militants killed his father and mother, one daughter, and he is doing PhD in Kashmir University. But after that incident, daughter ran away from Kashmir Valley. She is working in New Delhi in a hospital like a scavenger. And he started to cry. Why it is happening? How long we must suffer, brother? How long? Because in Kerala we are living in very peaceful situation, very secular-minded people. Some hartals and some bandh, that's all. But we never faced, we never gone through in the midst of special act or Indian army presence. In Kashmir, people are living day by day, minutes and seconds. They are dreaming for the golden days, peaceful days. But unfortunately, it is not happening. Authorities and the rulers and central governments, all our claims, everything's nice, everything's calm, everything going well and good. But things are not like it is worst condition. They are going through in the midst of worst condition. But last 3 months, or if you check up last 3 months history, there are some changes are happening. Some changes because militancy is reducing with the help of our brave soldiers, with the help of our army. Do you know how much pains and sorrows they are suffering there? A boy married, after 20 days, he joined Kuwara. I met 2018. He started to cry. "Sir, this is my story. Only 20 days I stay with my family. Now I am serving in border area." Think about their dreams and expectations. Dreams and expectation. Our dreams and their expectation. All are looking for realities. But we have the power. We have the power. We have the power. We are the immortal citizens created by God. Immortal rewards of God. We all are immortal rewards of God. We are the powers. We are the powers to implement everlasting peace and security. Peace and security. 2017, I went to Jaffna to attend an international conference. Invited me to Jaffna University. I have very good ambition. I have very much interested to meet Lieutenant Tigers of Tamilam areas. Along with one senior professor, me and another one fellow, we went to Vavuniya, Kilinochi, and remote areas of Jaffna. It is painful situations. It is painful. People are madly running for basic facilities. People are madly running for basic facilities. no job, no education, no work, no home, nothing. Thousands are became homeless and jobless just because of LTT's involvement. Same things are happening in Kashmir Valley also. How we can prevent? With the help of dedicated sacrifices, surrendered, minded citizen can do some changes in this type of areas. So I'm challenging. More than 227 participants are presenting this online meeting. I am challenging. Suppose in your personal life, this type of incident may arise. How you are going to do? How you are going to solve these problems? How you are going to overcome the problems? Think about Kashmiri's life. Think about Kashmiri's life. Think about ordinary citizens' life. Think about Indian Army people's life. Think about our Indian citizens' life. Everything destroyed, trying to destroy it by the stupid nation called Pakistan. But again, my personal opinion indicated many of the Pakistanis, they are loving Indians sincerely. But rulers, militant organization, forcing to elected governments in Pakistan to do this thing, because Kashmir is a part of our blood. So you must act against India to do this thing in Kashmir. That's why Mr. Imran Khan and his coalition cabinet, ISI, Pak Army, all are doing so much of painful activities in this valley. That is why my paper title, "We shall meet again, the villa of peace, Kashmir." Old is gone. I hope very shortly, I am confident very shortly, Kashmir became one of the peaceful place in this, my motherland. I hope, it's my confidence. But I don't know when it happened. But peace is very near, sister, very near. Peace is near. But hand is bounded with this political dogmas. Once these dogmas will destroy, once the hands became normal, Kashmir became one of the safest and beautiful state in India. Article 6 of the UDHR, it says that everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Unfortunately, it also failed in the case of Kashmiris. Article 9 of the UDHR, it says that no one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. If I say anything about these words, the people will mark me as a cheater of a motherland. These are the things happening inside the Kashmir Valley. Again, the results of militancy. It says more than 393 schools are burned, damaged, many buildings are destroyed, banks are looted, human rights violation always happening. Just because of these things, 26 September 2008, Kashmiri Pandits demonstrated outside the UN office at New York. These are the situation happening in the Kashmir Valley. We need justice. We need proper justice. But unfortunately, again, the justice are shaded. Justice are shaded. Last talker, respected Sebastian Kurz said that justice is a part of human rights. Without justice, we cannot implement human rights. So think about the pitiful life of Kashmiris, why it's happening. Why it's happening? All are one in front of law. All are one. There is no separation. There is no separation. Constitution says right equality. That this but discrimination, deviations, divisions, separation, everything happening. And also Special Powers Act. Why it's happening? How long? How long? It's the head of our nation. We have the responsibility to protect our head. If head lost, what is the use of other parts? What is the use of other parts? 2018, United Nations Agency, Youth Education, they honored me. United Nations observer from Kashmir, one lady called Helen Filana. That time she's an observer from Srinagar, United Nations office. She only proposed my name to United Nations. After the clearance from central government, I went to United Nations meeting at Plateau State, Jos at Nigeria. So many people said Plateau State is near to Kanu. It is a Boko Haram militant organization area. I said, I research regarding to militancy. So I know their behavior. I know their journeys. I know their views. They never attacked ordinary citizen. I went to that place. They honored me. The lady, United Nations African observer, Professor Walawatmi, she said, Gigi Paul, we will give a responsibility. We are planning to send it Tanzania. I asked, why you are going to send it Tanzania? There is a place, remote area. I forget the name. Old grammar. You must go there. You stay 2 years and reconstructed the traditions and culture of the society. I asked, Madam, why? What happening? She said, 90% of people are dying with AIDS because Indians are very sincere, dedicated people. You send to United Nations missions at New, and we will start you as a deputed person, as a UN head of that area, Tanzania. Will you go? Will you go? Last year also she sent a mail. Gigi Paul, you must go. Will you go? But again, I'm thinking about these things because without God's permission, I cannot go. I'm only instrument. I'm only instrument. You and me all are instrument. Instrument. We all are instrument. But God is using these instruments, small instruments in the midst of darkness. But when the mind permitted me, I will go. Last September mid also, she wrote a mail. Gigi Paul, kindly requesting you, come to Tanzania, work 2 years in this people's area, try to reconstruct their traditions and customs. AIDS is increasing. I don't know why they are choosing. They send my name to United Nations Observer Mission at Johannesburg, South Africa. But again thinking, I request all the participants, life is very short. P.B. Shelley's famous poem called Death as a Leveler. The poem says that only your good actions never die, still sweet blossom in this death. Death will touch any time. It will touch his I see hands. It is inevitable. But after the death, coming generation and society will remember your good action. Still sweet in this death. So will you do? Will you do? Will you do? I'm challenging each and every one. That is the aim of your life. Collecting money, spending lavishly, enjoying all the facilities. One day we must really relieve or quit from this world. But you will go like unsatisfied person. You will go like unsatisfied person. Again, I'm challenging. So do something for the sufferings of humanity. Do something for the suffering society. To do something for the humanitarian aids. It will, it will create so much of memorable moments in your life, your journey, your life, your encouragement, and your dedication. Spread to nation. It will motivate, it will inspire so many youngsters to society. I give my special thanks to one and all, especially my respected friends Mohammad Rafi sir and Mohammad Suhail sir, to invited me a wonderful title present in front of all called "We Shall Meet Again, the Villa of Peace, Kashmir." I try to avoid so many things because it is you are telecasting in YouTube lively, but if I talk anything wrong, it will create so many problems for me. That is why consciously I avoided so many political incidents. Thank you so much for everything. May God bless all abundantly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. That was a great session. So can we have a discussion section over here?
Yes.
Yes, audience, if you have any queries, you can unmute your mic and ask questions. So please wait for a moment.
No problem, teacher.
Audience, if you cannot unmute your mic, you can use the chat box. So far, we were discussing about the topic, we shall meet again the Villa of Peace, Kashmir. Nashwara, it's not audible.
മഞ്ജലിയെ അടിച്ചു വാരിയിട്ടൊന്നും വൃത്തിയാക്കിയിട്ടൊന്നും ഇല്ലല്ലോ ഇവിടെ എന്റെ പുതപ്പ് പോലെ മടക്കിച്ചിട്ടില്ലല്ലോ.
Sir, can we wind up?
Nobody interested to talk?
Yes, sir, but it's not audible, I think.
Okay, okay. Okay, teacher.
Do we need to wait for that 2 minutes?
Okay. Audience can ask.
Audience, chat box is available now. You can just put your queries in the chat box. Sir, we have a question.
Okay.
Do they exciting and ethical cleansing in Kashmir? Do they existing and
Hello.
Sir, I hope the question is clear to you. The question is from Sadiq Ali. Do
Okay.
there exist an ethical cleansing in Kashmir?
Ethical cleansing is already gone. Already gone. After 1991, Al-Fran newspaper, Kashmiri militant published a notice as soon as possible within 48 hours, Kashmiri Pandits relief from Kashmir Valley. It is a starting age of cleansing. It is a starting time of cleansing, especially Kashmiri Pandits, over Kashmiri Pandits. It is gone, it's gone. Now in present scenario, in olden days, Kashmiri militants attacked non-Muslims. Now in present scenario, they are targeting Muslims and Hindus, Sikhs, etc. So there is no use for cleansing or not at all importance regarding the question. Cleansing already gone. But olden in 1991, it was happened, especially in the midst of this Kashmiri Pandit's life.
Thank you, sir. Audience, please put your questions to the chat box if you have any. Otherwise, we will wind up.
If anybody wants to raise a question in Malayalam, no problem. Maybe some students also participated. Doesn't matter.
Audience, you can ask your questions in Malayalam too. So we have one more question. I think it's a reply from Sadiq Ali. Like many allegations recently rising that saying there's a corporate game is playing by some powers. Sir, please unmute your mic, sir. Gigi Paul, sir, please unmute your mic.
Okay. I am not interested to reply this question because if I say anything, the people, because the rulers marked me as a cheater. So many programs, so many things are happening in the Kashmir Valley. Corporate, especially land issues. There are some problems because central government introduced new laws. Anybody can purchase land in Kashmir Valley. So if I talk anything, it will create so much of contradiction. So sorry. In personally, the person asked this question to me. I am ready to explain everything because it is a live meeting. Sorry.
Shall we wind up, sir, with your permission?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such an informative and valuable session. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to call upon Unnikrishnan, sir, for the vote of thanks. Sir, please.
Okay. So, very good morning to one and all gathered here. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. First and foremost, I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to Dr. Sebastian Paul for this enlightening session. Thank you, sir. And I take this opportunity to extend our most sincere thanks to Dr. Gigi Paul, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science, MD College, Palani. Thank you, sir. Then I must mention our sense of appreciation for Dr. Thomas George, HOD of the Department of Physics, and Regina Philip, HOD of the Department of History, to chair this session. A special words of gratitude to all the panel members, scholars who are from different destinations, our most valued invited guests, and the fraternity of St. Mary's family. It requires meticulous planning and execution to organize such a magnificent event. I cannot express enough for the involvement of the committee to make this session as a huge success. Thank you everyone being with us today. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Next, we will move on to the paper presentation session. I request all the participants to be ready with your paper as well as with your PPT. Rules and regulations. The time limit of each paper presentation is 7 to 10 minutes. This will be followed by a short discussion for 2 to 3 minutes. Participants, please expect questions from the judging panel and from the audience. Please take care not to exceed the time to keep our session on schedule. The moderator will coordinate the session and will act as a vigilant timekeeper. The participants are requested to present their paper in PPT format. If any technical issue arises from the side of the participant, for the time being, we will move on to the next participant. But you will be given another chance for the presentation and the time will be informed personally.
Our judging panel, our judges are Dr. Jayesh G, who is currently working as Assistant Professor, Department of HNSS GITAM School of Gandhian Studies, deemed to be University of Visakhapatnam. He completed his MA in Development Studies, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam, and Political Science in IGNOU, New Delhi. He did his MPhil in Research and Development, Gandhigram Rural University, Dindigul, Tamil Nadu, and did his PhD in Politics and International Studies, Pondicherry University. He also had completed international summer course on human rights and natural law, and intercultural philosophical perspective, Catholicate University from Germany. We welcome you, sir. Next, we have Dr. M.A. Joseph. He was a professor of the Department of Commerce and Management Studies at the University of Calicut, former director, UGC HRDC, University of Calicut for more than 5 years, and coordinator of the School of Management Studies, Calicut, for 11 years. He was the former Dean Faculty of Commerce and Management Studies, former chairman of Board of Studies in Commerce, and was an elected member of the Academic Council of the University of Calicut, representing the teachers of management studies. He was also the chief coordinator of MBA courses of the university and the coordinator SDE MBA course, Calicut. He had the additional charge of the coordinator, UGC Net Cell of the university for the June 2014 test. He has about 27 years of research and teaching experience. PhD degrees were awarded to 8 scholars under his supervision, and almost 16 research scholars are doing MPhil degrees under him. He had published 14 edited books, 16 book chapters are published, along with 37 research articles in national journals, and has participated in about 90 international, national, state-level conferences, seminars, workshops, out of which 45 cases he has either acted as a resource person or presented papers. We welcome you, sir. Next, we have Dr. K.K. Balachandran, HOD, Department of Commerce and Management, St. Mary's College, Puthanangadi. Welcome, sir. Our next judge, Dr. Jensmon George, Associate Professor, Dean of Studies. He completed his PhD in Management from Bharatiya University, Coimbatore. He qualified the UGC NET in Management. He has done his MSc in Psychology from Madras University. He is a science graduate specialized in botany from the Calicut University and has an MBA degree from the College of Engineering, Mangalam. Welcome you, sir.
We have the first participant ready. I would like to invite Sneha KS. Miss Sneha KS for the paper presentation.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. Pardon me if there are any disturbances in the audio because I'm not in a professional environment right now. I had some medical emergency and I had to come home. So I hope this presentation cooperates with my situation as well. Good morning to all respected panel judges and the audience present here. The topic that my co-author, Muhammad Suhail C., who is assistant professor in the Department of Political Science, St. Mary's College, and myself, who's also the an assistant professor in the same Department of Political Science in St. Mary's College, we have decided to present a paper on the hunt of human rights defenders with a special focus on the Bhima Koregaon controversy. So how we would like to go about this topic is to relate how post-truth era facilitates very easily the hunt of human rights defenders and human rights issues, how it very clinically hides human rights issues in the bombarding of a lot of information, a lot of sensationalized news, and how the appropriate response towards human rights issues will not come up because of the post-truth society present in India currently. The post-truth era will definitely mark a transformation towards a far-right methodology of propaganda and storytelling and news making and narratives. And so in the same way, concerned, which makes them detached from facts and prefer narratives that they would like to believe as facts. So people would not actually use in the concept of modernity, we use our rational methodologies and rational thinking to distinguish between what is false and what is true. There has always been a truth-seeking character in modernization at the post-Renaissance period. But this is reversed. It is almost like we are going back into time when we are looking at post-truth era, where people would like to believe what is right as what they would like to prefer. It's always about their preference. to believe what is right, and there is actually a very detached connection from what is actually the fact. So even though the term post-truth, it has been coined in the 1990s after the Watergate scandal and everything. So, but the elements of post-truth politics, how propaganda is used to turn a population into believing something that is so convincing, that is so convenient to believe, that we can see in the interwar period itself. And this is especially true in the case of the rise of Nazi state in Germany. So when we're looking at the Nazi state in Germany, we can see that there is a lot of propaganda that is created, a lot of narratives that was used against the Jews, against the communists, against the weak people, against the physically weak in Germany, that the people found it so convincing and it was easy for them to believe because of the defeated psychological position from the First World War. So given the situation and given the need of the people to believe in something that they want to believe as true, this situation is utilized by an autocratic state to sell their ideology. So in this context, we need to understand how the post-truth era has used, in the post-truth era, the state has used its power to appeal to the public opinion using the grand sentiments and terms like national security, sovereignty and integrity of the country, etc. In India, when we talk about post-truth politics, we can see that there is a very distinguished phase of post-truth society and post-truth characteristics of politics, especially after the rise of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And this we are trying to analyze through the use of how frequently after this party comes into power, how frequently has preventive detention laws like UAPA been used. And according to the data provided by Ministry of Home Affairs itself in a Lok Sabha session, it was noted that there has been a rise of 72% of persons arrested using UAPA in 2019 compared to 2015. Now, coming to the Bhima Koregaon affair, we have to understand that the essence of Indian society has ever been deeply embedded in caste. The vicious caste system has been the base, and it has been dictated our economic relations, it has dictated our social relations, and the superficial structures that are placed upon caste, upon the independence of India, was modernization and liberal democracy and institutions concerning liberal democracy. So these structures were merely superficially placed upon the already existing layer of caste. So because of this, there has been increasing caste violence throughout our history, and in the recent times, there is a greater increase in the number of cases that has been reported. So as per I have given a data here. As per a study, there is a 6% increase in crimes against Dalits from 2019 to 2018. So this is a time where there is an increased frequency of violence against Dalits, as well as there is also a strong and vibrant movement against caste-based atrocities. There is a lot of social movements that fight against this, and there is a social movement that is trying to uplift the marginalized communities. So in this context, when we're studying the case of Bhima Koregaon riots, which was instigated as per an alternative study, which was instigated by the right wing, and then this riot was used as a weapon to hunt other human rights defenders who were always on the blacklist of the state. So now we can see how this one event, Bhima Koregaon riots, was used to sell a narrative that these riots were instigated by certain members of the certain human rights activists, tribal rights activists, Dalit rights activists, which were already on the watch list of the state. And because of this one incident, there is a creation of a grand narrative about national security and national integrity that is linked to caste right activists, which in a commonsensical understanding is very far from that it should not be connected. Like caste right activists should not be connected to connected as a threat to national security, but that is how it has been created. And now we will see how that has been created. So that exactly is the problem that we identified. That is, in the face of post-truth politics, activists who are vocal against caste violence and pseudo-nationalism and autocratic state behavior have been branded as threats to national security. Also, this is also a form of suppressing dissent. And in this, manipulation of facts are being arrested using draconian laws like the UAPA. The arrests following the Bhima-Koregaon riots are a perfect example of this manipulation and need to be closely examined. And why this becomes a statement of the problem is because in a post-truth environment, there is no adequate attention given to human rights issues, and the same human rights violations are now being practiced upon human rights defenders themselves. In this case, in the case of Bhima-Koregaon riots, and the arrests that were made after the Bhima-Koregaon riot, we can see that it is the very human rights defenders that were arrested and who are now being the victims of human rights violations. Our objectives are to inquire whether post-truth settings in India has led to the decline of status of human rights, to inquire whether there has been an increase in use of preventive detention laws in post-truth era compared to the to national security and integrity has been manipulated to include activism that clearly stands outside the definition. And our research methodology is primarily it is secondary data that has been used. It comprises of government studies and other researches and newspaper reports. We also did a historical analysis of how and an analysis of social media behavior towards arrests of human rights activists surrounding Bhima-Koregaon riots has been conducted. Of course, the limitations would be that we do not get enough time to actually go very deep into the topic. It is a broad understanding that we are trying to create here, and so the small significant details might be left out. The time taken is also very limited, and we couldn't gather much primary source. So our findings are that here I have given a brief overview about what happened at Bhima-Koregaon. The Battle of Bhima-Koregaon is a historical battle won by the British Army, which is largely comprised of soldiers from the Dalit Mahar community against the Peshwa army, which was upper caste. So this historical battle, which the Dalits won, is actually a celebration for them, and this event is commemorated every year, and the Algar Parishad is the committee that hosts the Bhima-Koregaon commemoration. So the annual commemoration has been a peaceful event every year, but in 2018 there was a tension between the Mahars and Marathas, which is instigated by the Marathas, by the right-wing forces, and which led to the riots on 1st January 2018. But this event, what was not foreseen was the use of this event by the government to embark on a witch hunt against human rights activists and academicians who were actively vocal for a long time against the state-led violence on its own people. Now they were all charged with UAPA and were accused of instigating the violence. Here we have, I have given a list of persons who were arrested as a part of the Bhima-Koregaon riots. And here we can see the diversity in the area of activism of these people. So some are tribal rights activists, some are Dalit rights activists, some were academicians. Varavara Rao was a poet. You have Rona Wilson, who was secretary for committee for release of political prisoners. So the state narrative is that all these people, all these activism was a front for their actual Maoist links, that these people were not actually Dalit right activists or caste activists, but they were Maoists. So now we see how the state has created this narrative. The state has accused all of the persons of links with the CPI Maoist, which is banned, and claimed that the banned Maoist outfit has pre-planned the violence that broke out at Bhima Koregaon. And they were all charged with UAP and have been jailed since. Only Varavara Rao got the bail due to health conditions. And here we see the use of hard power of the state. The state has used its hard power through laws and the extrajudicial investigative machinery to arrest, put people under house arrest and arrest them and detain them for a long time. Now, how is this narrative being sold to the people? Now, the right-wing think tank, Forum for Integrated National Security, otherwise FINS, related, yes.
It's already time up. Can you please conclude it? Really sorry to say. Can you please try to conclude it?
Okay. Okay, so our study reached a conclusion that the state had used its hard power and soft power to sell a narrative that these human rights activists were, had links with Maoists, and at the time they were a threat to national security. And you also have to note the role of the media that has actually detached the public from looking at human rights activism as something serious and something that does not bother them, as something that does not affect the public, but something that happens in the more serious realm of politics. So post-truth era has easily facilitated the arbitrariness of state action. It is the post-truth era where the public, the media is bombarded with information, is bombarded with sensational news every minute. The other day, even recently, we saw how the media was celebrating the controversy with the motor vehicle department in Kerala. So every day you have new news, something that the people would like to see. It is always telling what the people what would be entertaining to the people rather than the serious, solid facts. So even in social media, these issues have been discussed only for a very short time. The longevity of such discussions is for a very short time. Also because the social media is a very dynamic space and new things come up every other minute. So the Indian public has been accustomed, and it is normalized now, to view state's breach of human rights in a very distant manner, and the longevity of discussion on such issues is very short. So a society that has established socio-democratic principles will surely react to these violations in a larger scale. But that it is not happening means that it only indicates that our society has not embraced a social democracy. So the lack of strong public opinion against these issues has become a very common and a dangerous factor in present-day Indian politics. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Judges, if you have any queries, please.
Hello. Is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So my question is, there are sensational news which distorted the. So sensationalization of news is the main villain for the. Can you suggest a way in which some censorship for this social media as well as the general media? Is it possible to have the kind of censoring?
Sir, I believe that censoring is not the answer to sensationalization of media. But censorship in the sense that I think it should come from the public opinion. As in when the public changes their requirements, as in when the public demands that the serious issues should be reported more seriously than going for the consumption of sensational news. when that sort of a demand comes from the public themselves, when the viewers themselves, only then the media houses can change its modus operandi. But the censorship would actually only further aggravate the situation that our country is already facing. You know, as it is going towards an autocratic state, or as it already is. So censorship wouldn't be my preference, but it would be a stronger public opinion against media censorship.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're thinking that in the post-truth era, a state is becoming powerful. One thing that is your one argument. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
No? Okay, then there is another view that, of course, in the globalized world, the market or the MNCs are powerful, and there is a diminishing role for the state. Okay, so in human rights perspective, especially you talked about this particular incident, and what is exactly the power of state? How you define that? Then you please try to connect this to. So, as you know that in the globalized world, market MNCs they are playing a major role to control the state, right? And you also told about social democracy, that even after 70 years, it is not it's not fully established in India. So can you tell a solution for that thing?
Okay, sir. So first, you asked about how.
Did you get? I asked you because you studied international relations. So in a larger perspective, how human rights will be there, in particular, especially in this situation? Thank you.
Yes, sir. As you said, it is also very evident that in the international realm, we see the active role of MNCs, multinational corporations, and also international trade organizations, and all these institutions that facilitate the easy seeping in of capitalistic mode production through to especially third world countries. And in the third world countries, what we see now is there is a negotiation between the state and the market both are trying to have its own areas of influence. But at the same time, there is also a reducing role for the state, as in they are being dictated by the MNCs. And there is that element is also there, that state is not for political power consolidation, but it's also for economic consolidation, that these human rights violations are happening. And we can see that in the implementation of things like ease of business index. That index does not consider any human development aspect, or it does not consider a more humane view of life, but it is only depending on how well the corporate companies can function in a state. So with indexes like these, we are now looking at we are looking more at how economically feasible it is, or how easy it is for MNCs to operate in a country, rather than how peaceful and how poverty ridden, or how is the state looking at the welfare of the people. So the living conditions of the people is not given importance now. More than that, what is being given importance is the how well a multinational corporation can function in a state. So in that respect, human rights is being very sidelined now, because human rights is not an issue for the multinational corporations in this context. So the state has reduced its power I don't think the state has actually reduced its power, but it has only increased its power in what is convenient for it, and what is convenient for the corporates, it has left for the corporates. So it is not like the state has reduced its power. The state has actually strengthened its hard power to facilitate the functioning of the MNCs. Is how I see it.
Yes, okay.
And sir, for your second question, you were
Yes.
asked about social democracy. Sir, it is a very sad
no,
fact.
just Sneha, this is just to connect this with the overall picture of human rights in international internationalized or a globalized world. Particularly these kind of incidents, it's evident that it is there. It is not only that happening in India, and or in other states also it is there. It means a micro level it is there, macro level at the global level is also there. So I just wanted to see how the state is playing a role in this particular. Okay.
Okay, sir.
You continue. Social democracy, you just you complete that.
Yeah, for social democracy, the concept again, I think I will have to borrow the idea of Ambedkar. He said that the social democracy, unless and until India accepts the social democracy, and in social democracy is basically how one person treats another in this in this country. So already a caste-ridden and communal and a very feudal economic setup India has. So in that context, when we talk about social democracy, the principles of social democracy is very well given in our preamble about what it assures to our citizens about liberty, equality, justice, and fraternity. So all these principles are actually supposed to be practiced with one another. Me to another citizen of this country, and so another citizen to the other citizen of the country. So social democracy is a very personal thing to be practiced. And I think how we can develop social democracy is by reversing the harmful effects of caste and communal politics in India, as well as a very greater awareness about how vicious the caste system and the communal the communal politics that is continuing in India is affecting us. So I think that is how we can achieve a sort of social democracy.
Okay, and done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, judges. Can we move on to the other participant?
Yes.
Before that,
Yes.
there is an announcement for all the participants. Participants are requested to concentrate towards their introduction, findings, and conclusion. And you can also concentrate towards your limitations of study. So our next participant is Farsin Ali. Farsin Ali, are you ready? Our next participant, Mr. Farsin Ali.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let me share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, your screen is visible.
Okay, thank you. So, my name is Farsin Ali, and I'm an MPhil research scholar at Madras School of Social Work, Chennai. Today, I'll be presenting my paper along with my guide, Dr. P. Amada Lakshmi. And our paper focuses on refugees and their human rights. So in this paper, I'll be doing a comparative study of three major refugee communities in India, that is Tibetan, Rohingyas, as well as Tamil refugees. So as we all know, human rights violations are a major cause of refugee crisis all over the world. Basically, when we talk about any refugee crisis around the world, we may find a gross human rights violation behind their flight. So in this study, I'll be talking in the context of India. So in India, as we all know, we have been receiving a lot of refugees from around the world. We have refugees from Bangladesh, we have refugees from Myanmar, Afghanistan, from Sri Lanka, from Tibet. Even we have refugees from other part of the world, even though they are small in number. So in this paper, I'll be placing these three refugee communities in the context of Indian refugee management mechanism. So as we all know, India is not a signatory of International Convention on Refugees, nor we have a national policy for refugees. So even though we don't have a national refugee policy, we have been receiving a lot of refugees communities from around the world. So in this paper, I'll be exploring the status of these three refugee communities with their access to different socio-economic and legal services in India. So as I told earlier, we don't have signed International Refugee Convention. We don't have a national policy, but we have signed a lot of international treaties that make India obliged to provide protection to refugees. So these treaties urge a positive duty on India to provide protection to refugees as long as they fear persecution. But however, in the absence of a government policy or a specific law, we know that the socio-economic and educational rights of refugee communities in India will be vague and ambiguous. So we know that currently the refugee mechanism that exists in India is ad hoc in nature. It's we treat different refugee communities asymmetrically. Like we provide them rights based on many categories that are asymmetric in nature. So primarily in this paper, the objective of the study will be I will be exploring the status of these three refugee communities, focusing on the ad hoc mechanism and asymmetric distribution of human rights to these refugee communities. I'll be also exploring the approach toward India's approach toward extending different rights and services to these three refugee communities. So I'll be beginning with the Tibetan refugees. Then I'll be talking about the Tamil refugees, and I'll be concluding with the Rohingya refugees. So like this paper is based on secondary data by reviewing a lot of literature on various sources related to refugees in India. So talking about Tibetan refugees, as we all know, Tibet was an independent country in 1951 after China after China started, coming to Tibet and attacking their socio-political and religious institution. There were many problems in China. They were denied basic human rights. They were denied jobs. Their culture was under threat. Their religion was under threat. Their religious institutions, monasteries were under threat. So in 1959, thousands of Tibetans, led by their religious leader, Dalai Lama, fled to India. So Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was the PM at that time, and he have received and he have given them the asylum in India, and they were resettled in many parts of the country. So government has given them lands on lease, They have a government in exile in Dharamshala. They have settlements across the country. State governments were asked to give land on lease for these refugee communities, and they were settled in these different settlements across India. So they enjoy a greater freedom with regard to various services. Their rights in many terms are in par with a Hello, am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, but your presentation is not there. Right? Yes, continue. Continue.
Yes, Mr. Farsinali, please continue.
Okay. Someone has turned on their mic. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So regarding Tamil refugee influx to India, like we can see that Tamil refugee influx to India took place in 4 waves, beginning from 1983. So during their flight to India, the Indian government has asked the state government of Tamil Nadu to receive them. They were primarily accommodated in transit camps. Then they were shifted to various Tamil refugee camps across Tamil Nadu. So considering the culture and language affinity towards Tamil people, the government of India has decided to resettle Tamil refugees in the state of Tamil Nadu itself. So like the Tibetan refugees, Tamil refugees also comes under the mandate of government of India, and through government of India, the state government, that is Tamil Nadu government, is undertaking the care and protection of Tamil refugees in India. So they have a lot of provisions for healthcare, education, livelihood, etc. They enjoy, like the government of Tamil Nadu has been providing many services to them through the Department of Rehabilitation and all. So thirdly, when talking about Rohingya refugees are a refugee crisis that India has been facing from 2010. So they consist of Rohingya minority from Myanmar. We all know the historical background of the statelessness of Rohingya refugees and the followed flight of Rohingya refugees to India. So when we compare Rohingya refugees to other refugee communities in India, they enjoy very little rights. They are not being recognized as refugees. They are not given, like they are being targeted as infiltrators or illegal immigrants. So they are being denied basic human rights. They live in gross poverty. Though they live mostly in urban areas, they also have settlements in rural areas like Mewat in Uttar Pradesh, etc. So when we look into the Rohingya refugees, as we know, since 2014, the right-wing organization have begun a campaign demanding the expulsion of Rohingya refugees. We also would have read about the news of a deportation or deportation of Rohingyas to Myanmar at a time when the Myanmar is under army agenda. So it was being criticized by many international organizations for violating the many international conventions that India was part of, mainly the principle of refoulement. We have, like, the government's move is against the principle of non-refoulement. So it has been widely criticized by many human rights organization, including UNHCR. So concluding my presentation, so when we look into these three major refugee communities in India, it's clearly evident from these three refugee communities in India that we have a differential treatment of refugees existing in India. So absence of a national refugee law or a unified policy has made India's refugee management mechanism ad hoc and asymmetric. So we can see that we deal the refugee issues at political and administrative level, which essentially causes the differential treatment of refugee communities. So it has been largely influenced by political atmosphere, the bilateral relationship with other countries, and the socio religious and ethnic background of these refugee communities. So it's clearly evident from the story or the status of these three major refugee communities in India. So that's all about my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Farsin Ali. Over to you, judges. Judges, please.
Mr. Farsin Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Now the refugee issue has been handled by the central government according to the Indian Foreigners Act of 1946. And
Yes,
do you think that this law is sufficient to protect the interest of refugees? I think it is giving the central government an unbridled freedom, a limitless freedom to handle the issues of refugees, which is used by the government of India in sometimes arbitrarily. And how can
yes, sir. Yes, sir. In India, we don't have a term refugees mentioned anywhere in the constitution or anywhere in the law. We don't have any law pertaining to refugees, and we are treating refugees as foreigners. So refugees are treated under the Law of Foreigners Act 1948, and they don't have the recognition of being a refugee in India as per the law or the constitution. So many times it has been arbitrary, it has been asymmetrical, and they have been treated differently at different political scenario in India.
My question is regarding any suggestions for
Yes, sir. India should come forward with a national unified refugee policies. Many parliamentarians, including Shashi Tharoor, has came up with draft bills for asylum seekers and refugees, but unfortunately, we didn't get it passed in the parliament. So the national policy for refugees will be a positive move in this regard, I believe.
Right, thank you.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes. My question
yes,
is...
Farsin, I think this is your doctoral thesis, right?
No, sir. My MPhil focus on Tibetan refugees.
MPhil, okay. Why
yeah,
you have largely dependent upon secondary data?
My research was on Tibetan refugees and their resilience of Tibetan refugee youths.
Okay. So is there any evidence that these refugees are facing human rights violation in India? Do you have some evidences for that?
Yes, sir, I do have. Personally, during my post-graduation, I worked with Rohingya refugee communities. So I personally witnessed those discrimination and human right violation. And recently, we all know the movement from the central government to deport them. They have been detained and they have been shifted to holding centers in Jammu. So it is clearly against the international obligation of India and against the human rights of these refugee communities.
Okay.
Mr. Farsin Ali.
Yes, sir.
Can you make a comparison of achieving benefits and disadvantages from these three refugees?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So when we look at the Tibetan refugees, they have given the lands by different state governments to establish their settlements, to establish their educational institutions and other social institutions such as schools, Tibetan hospitals, monasteries, etc. But when we look into Tamil refugees, they are settled. They are being forced to settle in different refugee settlements in Tamil Nadu under under poor condition compared to Tibetans. Tamil refugees enjoy a little, very little provisions for services and welfare. And when it comes to Rohingyas, it is worstly, they are worstly treated. They are not even they are facing detention. They are being detained. They are being attacked by right-wing organization, as we have witnessed the fire broke outs in Delhi, Kalindi Kunj camps. So these are some of the examples that show us the differential treatment of these communities. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Farsin Ali. Judges, shall we move on to our next participant?
Okay, right.
Next, we have Ms. Arundhati Devi. Ms. Arundhati Devi?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you can continue with your presentation.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Okay, thank you.
Please continue.
Good afternoon, respected panel of judges and all the patient listeners over here. Our paper is titled as Repression to Resilience, Politics of Fourth Generation Rights in Kannan and Enjoy in Jammu. Myself, Arundhati Devi, and I have co-authored this paper with Abhimanyu R. We are both assistant professors in Department of English, Christnagar College. Over to the PPT. So, we know that the evolution of human rights can always be categorized under three generations. And with the obliteration of global boundaries, we see a change in the dynamics and nature of human rights. They are undergoing an unprecedented evolution, we should say. So when capitalism and colonialism, they were trying to enclose the spaces which were available for resistance and resurrection, globalization opened up a plethora of spaces with the aid of technology. And we shall say that it was these spaces which imparted a true meaning to globalization. Now, it's not only the ideas and the cultures which are transcending the domestic walls, but it is the voices of resistance and resilience too. So in this paper, we are trying to establish the existence of fourth generation human rights, and that has got its roots very deeply in the political structures of social media. So we have taken three works, three media representations. And we are about to say that we are stating that, see, some of the voices, when they were restricted for a long time in the traditionally constructed spaces, with the newly constructed world, with the aid of technology, they are moving out. Now they can resist, they can come back with resilience. So the objective of the paper is to analyze how these unheard voices are constructing new spaces of resilience. So as said before, we have taken three media representations. One is the photograph of Aylan Kurdi, And the second one is Tamil movie Kannan and the song Enjoy and Jamming. So with these three media representations, we are talking about the potential to herald the advent of a change in the global scenario and the existence of fourth-generation human rights. Over to the paper. The first one is Alan Kurdi and the wave that followed. When the lifeless body of Alan Kurdi, a 3-year-old Syrian refugee, was washed ashore on a Turkish beach, the photographer had got nothing in her mind. She just wanted to make the outcry heard. And her purpose was fulfilled when the photograph was displayed across 20 million screens. What might have went to the annals of history as something very innocuous, as something very silent, a refugee crisis, got attention overnight. And now let's analyze why did this happen. Normally, when we say the word migrant, there is a certain kind of foulness attached with it. Someone who tried to break the boundary of a wealthy nation, say Europe or America. But the photograph of Alan Kurdi could actually deconstruct the very meaning of migrant. So from now onwards, people understood what they were going through. And how did this deconstruction happen? First one, it's because of the identifiable victim effect. So when a catastrophe falls upon an individual rather than a community, our heart always goes out for them. We feel a kind of empathy. We feel a surge to help them out. So this happened in the case of Alan Kurdi. And if we see the photograph, it was not having any kind of gaudiness. It was not having any bloodshed. It made him identifiable. It can be any of our children. So the photograph has the ability to shoot and rise like an arrow and just to pierce our heart. And that's explained in punctum. So social media has the ability to spread the emotions, and it can catch us unawares. Consciously or unconsciously, it creeps into us. Now let's see what happens if Twitter and Facebook was not there, if this photograph was not clicked. The migrants would still continue. They will be still struck in some mainstream narratives, and we will never know about what these poor people are going through. So that's about Alan Kurdi and the wave that followed. Second one is the Tamil film Kannan, A New Kurukshetra. This was written and directed by Mari Selvaraj and has got Dhanush in the lead role. And after the theatrical release, the film was released on OTT platform Amazon Prime. And as we all know, since the onset of the pandemic, the subscription of Amazon Prime has increased. So Amazon Prime and all the OTT platforms are really rewiring the film industry. So Kannan, with its new form of release and with its new narrative, was actually writing a different story of human rights, and to be more precise, the Dalit rights. So when it was released in Amazon Prime, it was actually something that went against the mainstream narratives. Mainstream narratives often has this nature of stating hegemony as something very natural. Therefore, we can't question them. They are desirable aspects. But Kannan has made this possible. So this time we can say that the chariot of Kannan was rising with more voice and spectacle. So the two concepts that you can see on screen, appropriation and abrogation, it's normally explained on matter of language. So abrogation means you are denying the authority of a mainstream language, say English. And appropriation means you are using the language for reconstructing something or for the newer usages. So when it comes to Kannan, we might say that Kannan has abrogated the mainstream narratives. When we see the films, we normally see the dark complexion characters as armies of the villains. They don't have a particular role to play. But when it comes to Kannan, all the major characters are dark complexioned. They even deconstruct what is the concept of God. So when other people are too much into idolizing the romantic concept of Hindu gods, Kannan is actually having a beheaded statue. And sometimes the sister of Kannan, who was actually a victim of systematic failure, appears on screen. And she has the head of a divine soul. And then we see that the very myth associated with God And the very things which are associated with this so-called divinity is getting tarnished there. So Kannan is not actually going against the oppressed. They are simply claiming and owning the place. All the characters in Kannan. So as you can see in screen, what's in her name? In the film, some of the characters are asking, see, why should you have these names? They are all royal in nature. Are you the descendants of emperors? So who told that Dalit community should carry same names for over the ages? So Kannan had names like Abhimanyu and Duryodhanan. They can claim what was denied to them. So Kannan was breaking all the stereotypes, particularly the Dalit identity. Dalits always has this nature of expanding democracy by advocating something. So they slowly walked into the commercial environment, to the commercial mainstream, along with the commercial elements, and they could just give a new message to the center. And we can see that the film stands in the center with a very strong message to the center. And it wouldn't have been possible if there was not a platform different from the mainstream. And to the last one, Enjoy Njami, a rap of resistance. So as we know, this was a sensational hit, but there is something so special about Enjoy Njami. When you are having an area of protest, when it becomes viral, it's simply because people could empathize with that. Every subjugated community in the world used it to the maximum. So that is why we can see parallels in African community and many disenfranchised sectors of the world. So when something becomes viral, it's because of the empathy of the deeply hidden trauma. So Enjoy Njami is talking about the migration or the greatest emigration that India has ever witnessed during the British Ceylon period. So lakhs of laborers, they came back to India just to see that it was a no man's land. They felt like they're almost aliens in their own nation, the psychological trauma that they faced. So it is brilliantly captured in the song, and it is asking for everyone to come together and enjoy the fruits of nature. Now, how was this possible? As you can see, the mask of anarchy and Enjoy Njami. It's definitely the impact of time. When Shelley wanted to write a poem about the Peterloo massacre, he couldn't publish it during his lifetime, because he feared the backlash of government. But here, Enjoy Njami could boldly reconstruct the myths associated with the freedom of expression. So once the plantation laborers, they were facing social ostracization because they cannot cross the ocean. It was considered as a sin. But with the new havens of social media platforms, they could actually take their flight across 7 oceans, creating a ripple in everything and in every places it was heard. So exploitation becomes possible only when the people are not aware of their rights. But now they have got something very strong, something which is so strong than all the ammunitions, something very sharper than the armed rebellions. They can now break down all the barriers, and they have the ability to accentuate as a global voice. So this is what we are trying to say. We have the existence of a 4th generation right, and it can creep into us knowingly or unknowingly. So whenever we are updating a status, whenever we are sending a trailer to a foreign reaction channel, the social media is all there, and we are entering a 4th phase of human rights, where people has got the ability to protest, where they can make their resistance heard. So the human rights are there, deeply rooted in the psychological realms of social media, and the virtual world is there with its wings and claws to welcome us. So through this paper, we were trying to prove the existence of 4th generation rights and how the new modes of protest are making itself heard in the globalized world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arundhati Devi. Over to you, judges. Judges, please.
So, Arundhati, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah, it was a nice presentation. And okay, you're saying that there is a fourth generation of rights through social media, right? Yeah. Okay, my question is, see, the first generation of rights were, of course, it was focusing on the political rights, right? Second, so for example, social and economic rights. Third generation, we categorize this collective rights. So how will you categorize this this generation of fourth generation of rights? So just how you are going to give it?
Sir, I would say the fourth generation of rights is all about resilience, how a subjugated community can strike back. Like they are not answering to their oppressors, but they are making their voices heard. They're making their voices heard, and they have the ability to accentuate as a global voice. See, that's not concentrating on political or collective rights as such. Anything that is oppressing them can just come out because they have got something at their fingers. They can make it heard. They can make their cry heard. So anything that is oppressing them can come out as fourth generation rights.
Okay, with this, you are saying that the social media definitely with fourth generation rights, social media is playing a major role there. Okay,
yes.
And you know that then again, my worry is, of course, you also know that the main enemy for this elaborating these rights or this kind of breaking up, the main enemy is social media itself. In social media itself, you can see that there are a lot of violations.
Yes, sir,
right?
you're absolutely right.
So how you will connect this?
Sir, I think there is something called gatekeeping. So it's not about censorship, but we should establish a proper system of gatekeeping. Maybe gatekeeping can filter the genuine content out. So with this social media, we have the spread of emotions happening. So if it's not genuine, it won't last for long. I think with an effective mechanism of gatekeeping, we can make it proper.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Arundhati Devi. Thank you, judges. Judges, with your permission, shall we move towards our next participant?
I am okay with that.
Our next participant, Suhaib Hamza. Mr. Suhaib Hamza.
Yes, ma'am. I am audible.
Yes, you are audible. You can start your presentation.
Is PPT is visible?
Yes, it's visible. Please continue.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Suhaib Hamza. I completed my master's in conflict analysis and peace building from Nelson Mandela Center for Peace and Conflict Resolution, Jamia Millia Islamia. My topic is price of citizenship, impact of the National Register of Citizens on vulnerable communities, a study of India. Actually, this topic covering about how marginalized communities and vulnerable communities struggling on NRC, how they excluded from the NRC list.
I will go to the introduction. The National Register of Citizens in Assam is basically a list of Indian citizens living in the state. Its purpose is to document all the legal citizens of India so that the foreigners or illegal immigrants can be identified, sent to the detention camps, or deported. The anti-immigrant politics existed in Assam since India's independence. This anti-immigrant agenda has been overindulged in the Assamese community, triggering mass violence and agitation against the Bengali origin Muslim and Bengali Hindu communities. This majoritarian movement paved the path to the NRC process in Assam. The National Register of Citizens compiled in Assam in 1951, based on the census of the same year. The latest NRC is now being updated in Assam to include the names of persons who can prove their Indian citizenship through the submission to the government of a select list of personal and or family legacy documents that have pre-1971 validity. NRC process shifts the burden on the individual citizens to prove their citizenship from the authority. Practically, it is impossible for vulnerable people and marginalized groups, especially women, trans people, children, destitutes, and orphans. And these excluded persons from on 31st August 2019, the NRC was published by the Government of India. This final list excluded approximately 19 lakh people from of Assam. Most of them are from vulnerable and poor backgrounds. These excluded persons from list gravely threatening the Indian citizenship. They will be given one more chance to prove their citizenship. After they are given in writing their reason for their exclusion, they will be authorized to plead to the reasons why they should still be recognized as Indian citizens in the foreigners tribunals. NRC process, my statement of problem is NRC process excludes 19 lakh people from the citizens list. The major of them are from vulnerable and poor sections of the society. Given the socio-economic and educational backgrounds, vulnerable communities become the main victims of the NRC process. The bureaucratic exercise system failures and discrimination also cause their exclusion from the NRC list. My objective is that this study analyzes how India's NRC become a hefty burden to the helpless and vulnerable communities. It analyzes how Assam's majoritarian system and bureaucracy have sidelined the minority community in the NRC list. I use the qualitative analytic methods and from secondary sources, mainly from magazines, reports, and written documents, some journals and websites. The inherent, my finding is that the inherent structure force in the NRC that have disproportionately affected those from marginalized sections of society, especially women. In both draft NRC list and final list shows most of them excluded person are women. Eligible documents in the NRC conducted in Assam contained evidence of ancestry issued before 24th March 1971, for instance, mentioning NRC and election rolls in 1951, records of lands and certificates issued by governments, birth certificates and certificates of education. Most of the women didn't have marriage certificates or marriage registration, and because of the child marriage, the NRC requires person to document their relationship with their mother or father families. This has caused several problems for married women in particular, as many women have replaced their married names with surnames of their husband in the wise of their religion and the ethnic practice. Is an example. Some Bengali Muslim families changes their names from Khatun to Begum after their marriages. So these changes are trouble them to exclude the NRC list. Most of the backward and poor communities are not going to hospital for childbirth because of the childbirth is not registered, and most of them don't have birth registration certificate. So they can't, they fail to prove their ancestry in our paternal links with birth certificates. Women fail to establish blood links with paternal families through land documents. As a patriarchal and a patrilineal society, a bulk of women in Assam do not possess the land. In some ethnic communities, traditionally, land is not given to daughters. Because of this, women never have been an owner of the land, so they fail to establish blood links with their paternal families through land documents. And also because of child marriage, they couldn't work in their paternal home, so here also they fail to prove their link with their parents. Ration cards and Panchayat secretary certificates are the only documents for people to prove their link with their parents. But in many cases, these certificates are not accepted by the authority. Many children, those fathers are died out in NRC list, but their mothers in the list, they fail to submit their father's papers and their link with father. This shows the NRC procedure how difficult to the children those completely orphans or father died, especially orphan living in various shelter homes across the states. Last year, Supreme Court issued a notice to the NRC because almost 63 orphans are excluded in the NRC list. Trans people are also excluded in the NRC list, and procedure errors, including spelling mistakes, errors, inconsistency, poor system process, and poor training and awareness of the staff have also caused significant harassment and eventual loss to candidates. Discrimination and harassment work in ground level, especially all staffs from majority staffs from Assamese community, so they are discriminated and harassed, especially to the Bengali communities. Rejection in the NRC list are extremely discriminatory in some minority pockets, and state institutions are arbitrary. Here I conclude my topic. The National Register of Citizens process in Indian state of Assam is a complete injustice to vulnerable population in Assam, such as women, children, transgenders, and orphans. It caused these vulnerable groups to be excluded from the NRC list and exposed to the significantly higher risk of statelessness. For proving their legacy data, most vulnerable people are lost. Legacy data was not available to many, in particular in rural and remote areas. Procedural errors, including spelling mistakes, errors and inconsistency, poor system process, and poor training, awareness of staff, have also caused significant harassment and eventual loss to the candidates. The excluded women, children, and trans people are mainly failed to prove their connection with their parents. Lack of relevant documents are mainly caused to this situation. In many cases, their father or grandfather's names mentioned in the 1951 NRC or electoral rolls before 24th March 1971, but they excluded NRC list and they are threatening to be a statelessness. So I conclude my presentation here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello.
Yes, thank you, sir. I invite our judges.
So, Mr. Suhin Kamsa,
Yes, sir.
can you, you have concluded your certain atrocities and all. So, can you make suggestions how the situation can be improved, both in terms of the advantages we derive from the thing and the disadvantage?
Sir, actually, now our central government are deciding nationwide NRC, but our situation is our country almost it's a document verification. So our country almost lack of everyone not sufficient in documents. So this lack of documents are a threat of their this citizenship and this kind of list. So this kind of practice, I think, is injustice to the vulnerable people or our marginalized poor sections. So include more other documents and other form of practices. I can't suggest what form of practices actually is completely under government. Actually, this practice is injustice to the these people.
Similarly, migrant laborers were used to come to our
yes, sir.
state, and they were now just given as a good name, guest laborers. Similarly, can we name just like this this guest lecture, just labor and migrant labor?
Actually, this in Kerala state, as in COVID time, use this guest labor term. But in Assam, situation is more worse. This Bengali Assam conflict and Assamese nationalism is more violent after Indian independence, because before in colonial period, this Bengali community, especially Bengali Hindu community, given advantage above the Assamese community. So this caused this as a rise of Assamese nationalism against Bengalis. So other parts of India and Assam is especially northeastern states are conditions more worse and different. This term they are using particularly illegal migrants. Everyone they're taking Bengalis, Nepalis, Sikkim. These migrants all are illegal immigrants, not guest laborers or anything. So these we given these terms to these Assamese communities. Not possible.
Okay, Mr. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Suhail, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In 2003, the central government has brought an amendment to the Indian Citizenship Act 1955, and 14A has been included. And according to that particular amendment, there is a sincere effort to find out the legal citizens in India who is having the support of all legal documents. And it has been introduced in Assam, and just the process is going on in Manipur to find out the vulnerable sections of society. And what is the, or what are the documents which they have to produce, and what is the difficulty in presenting these documents? Can you please explain?
Yes, sir. Actually, this paper I discuss about the women, transgenders, and children, especially vulnerables in the Assam. In that sense, there are lack of documents, especially we know everyone this child registration in our Kerala also recently everyone registering their childbirth, but these documents they are asking documents from before 1971. So this kind of producing these kind of documents is not possible, especially poor sections of in society is completely not possible. These marriage certificates, educational certificates, most of them are illiterates and not going to schools, and they want to produce school certificates and the land documents. So we know everyone here reads some news. So some of the some members of the same family included in NRC list. Some of them are excluded because of this. They can't prove their linkage with their parents because of documents. So in NRC list, actually two types of list A and list B. In list A, there are government certificates and education certificate, marriage certificates, and land documents, etc. List B certificate documents are is only supporting list A certificate, the Panchayat secretary certificates, and Panchayat head certificate, village head, or what Gawan Bureau is in commonly in Assam using that their certificates and the ration cards, etc. So these are the main documents in NRC.
Thank you, Sukai.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. No questions from me.
Yeah, sir.
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, judges. Thank you all for sticking to time. Let us break for a sumptuous lunch and we will assemble back by 1:30 p.m. We will be back by 1:30 p.m.